Where are you? I'm coming to get you.
I'm close to your house, but I don't think I'm going to make it. I think I'm going to have to stop this myself.
Don't do anything rash. I'm coming to get you.
Goodbye, Myers. You're a good friend.
Frost! Frost!
Last year, I talked to you about what we plan to do with this monolithic film, The Object Legacy, a film that had been abandoned, that was at 80% complete. It was almost 2 hours long, and we had planned to go back to reshoots to kind of almost fill in the gaps of what we could. Now, going back after jumping on the January update of where we were working on that A plot that fills in those gaps, where are we now? Well, it's crazy to think that we're almost completed. We're almost at this end of this culmination of this journey that started with a film in 2008 called The Object, followed by The Fear Inside, Epilogue, Frost, You Know What I Like, and then jumping forward to Shape of Things to Come, which was essentially an amalgamation of what this film was supposed to be, because I wasn't sure if I was going to go back to it at that point. And then we came to Infiltration, which acted as a direct prequel to The Businessman, our first big feature film in this universe. And now we're at the point where we are almost finishing this kind of conclusion story with The Object Legacy, and also working on its swan song film afterwards, Final Report. But with The Object Legacy, I wanted to do a similar thing to what I did with The Businessman. I wanted to make a little prequel that will kind of almost get you ready and set for this big film that's coming out. And what Detective Harper Reports does is it will almost acts as a recap, but not in the way you think it will. It's an in-canon story. It's not like something like a just behind-the-scenes look at stuff. It is essentially Detective Harper, a character we've met all the way back in Fear Inside, analysing and doing reports on all these characters that are part of this massive story that is an anthology story, not in just in universe, but the actual film is an anthology story. We follow several characters, and that was important to me to establish all these well-built characters that have got a massive backstory. So with that in mind, going to the backlog of that, we've now got to the point where The Object Legacy is teetering on the 90 to 95% completion. What we could do theoretically now is, you could say the film is releasable, but we've got scenes that I really want to do to kind of just give the world a bit more oomph.
Do you know why I brought you here, Jack? This is my own personal thinking space. It's where I run away in one reality, but also it's a good place for private and discreet conversation.
Okay.
The question is, will you answer the call?
With the reshoot storyline, essentially what we've done is add a narrative with our characters Jack Harper and Mr. Myers essentially talking through this incident that has been designated the West Sussex incident and what has happened over these now 10 years of this mysterious supernatural event. But what I wanted to make clear with the reshoots, especially with bringing back Steve and Natalie, is to make sure the focus is still on those main characters. It's still on Jeffrey Taylor, it's still on Joanna Taylor, and most importantly, it's still on Andrew Myers. They're still our main characters of this storyline, and while Jack and Mr. Myers do have a greater presence in this film than initially planned, I still wanted to make sure that these characters that were initially promoted as the main characters still are the main characters of this story. They're still the heroes of this story, and that was very important to me when I was messing around with what we had shot before to come back and make sure that focus was still on them, their struggle, their survival, and how they are going to beat this mysterious supernatural entity that is attacking them from all fronts.
Come on!
As I was saying about keeping the focus on these characters, Andrew Myers obviously springs to mind. He's the character we started off with in this series of films that became this little mini universe. So I really wanted to make sure I didn't leave that character behind. I wanted to kind of show that character a bit more, build that character's presence up a bit more, because in the second chapter, when essentially the whole story goes along, you don't really see him until a good 10 minutes in, and he's kind of almost like the supporter to Jeffrey, played by Stephen. So I wanted to give that character a bit more agency and a bit more ulterior motive to not just Andrew, but the presence, the entity inside of him that's been working behind the scenes, the essential main villain of this film series. So that's going to be very exciting to see when we get to it.
Andrew, stop!
One of the core scenes that I've briefly mentioned on that I really wanted to put a focus on was the relationship between Jeffrey and Samantha, played by Steve and Natalie, obviously. It's only a brief scene that we've added in, but I think it really establishes that love story that is almost core to Jeffrey's motivation, so to speak. And while it's very brief, I think it will work very well for really giving you a way to root for these characters. I can say for a start that Stephen White, Natalie Howard-Dace, Laurence Reed, Jacqueline Reed are all wrapped on the Object Legacy, and at the moment we've just got a few scenes that will bolster other characters' roles and make their characters feel a bit more well-rounded. We've also got some supplementary characters to kind of fill in the world, fill in the timeline essentially of the world. And I think what these scenes will help establish is the time frame, because the Object Legacy, now that it includes part of that listener storyline that was sadly became a cancelled film, we have this beginning chapter, which is chapter 1, the listener storyline, which is set alongside the original Object film, and then there's this massive 10-year gap. So the way the Object Legacy is structured, or it was at least before we had to add the new plot to it, which acts a bit like how The Businessman is structured, with a beginning and an end that's set almost in the present day, and then the film is kind of like a whole flashback. We're now doing that with the Object Legacy, and those work well to fill in the gaps that we had before. So you might ask, well, what are we doing now? Well, the scenes that we filmed already with Steve and Natalie and Laurence are mostly bits to kind of flesh out their characters. A lovely new scene with Natalie and Steve that kind of just establishes their relationship a bit more. We've also introduced a character named Dr. Weir, played by Glenn Mikowski, who is obviously a colleague to Dr. Carter, who's played by Gareth Stone. And these scenes really kind of help establish the connection between the brother and the sister of Jeffrey and Joanna Taylor.
What happened to my sister? She's never shown any signs of mental illness before. She was always the strongest of the family. She wouldn't just break down.
I'd like to give you my medical opinion, Jeffrey, but I don't believe in it. I don't know what happened. It's unexplainable.
Who found her? Who found my sister? What happened?
I'm sorry.
So what is left, you could say? Well, this is going back in the day, when I decided to shelve the Gathering Vigilante project, I brought through a few scenes from that film into the Object Legacy to kind of almost bolster the world a bit, because those two films are kind of go side and side together. They're around about the same timeline. So there was quite a few crossover scenes between the Object Legacy and the Gathering film. Now that we shelved that Gathering film, I moved a few scenes over to the Object, and this was before we shut down, before we had the 6-year gap, and we filmed a few of those scenes.
Jack, what the hell happened to you last night? I leave you for 5 minutes and you pull a gun on an armed robber. Are you nuts?
Now, there are a few scenes from these gathering scenes that I took out that we can't do anymore, unfortunately, because we've lost a few of these cast members. A few moved away, a few literally aren't available to do it anymore. But there are a couple of scenes that may possibly still get done, depending on availability of certain actors. Now we move on to the newish scenes that were created specifically for the reshoots and just before we shut down. These scenes are really in particular to kind of bolster the villain roles. I'm very much someone that likes a lot of history with villains. I like them to have a motive that you can almost not necessarily root by, but kind of like understand. And yes, these villains are vampires and, slight spoiler here, but gods and stuff like that. You really want to kind of understand the wavelength of these villains. So these new scenes that I'm hoping to film will really kind of bolster up those roles rather than just being cannon fodder to our heroes that we've got. Really? It's like 8 o'clock. Okay, send them in. Well, excuse me for being abrupt, but I was just about to go home. What can I help you with?
Well, we're looking for one of your employees.
What do you want with him? With the storyline regarding Nathaniel, I really wanted to give him a bit more motivation. I wanted to have almost show the hierarchy of this vampire clan we've been following, the Suits essentially, and to do that we needed to add almost a supporting character to help him called Dante. Now Dante is like a loyal character to Nathaniel. He's essentially his right hand vampire, and he does essentially all of Nathaniel's bidding, and he will pop up quite crucially in a few scenes, specifically in a scene that I'm really looking forward to filming if we get it done, between all of our villains, and I'm really excited to finally film that.
Keep an eye on him. He might lead us to Taylor.
Nathaniel has always been an interesting character to me, because obviously when I was talking about it in 2015, we brought this character in to kind of put a physical villain into this film, and as I started working on him more and more, I was like, what is his motivations? What's his links? And a scene that was written for the Object Legacy that we've now moved to Final Report because I just couldn't crack where I was going to put it in the film, ended up in Final Report as a flashback, and it's such a brilliant scene that we've shot between my dad Stephen and Robin, and it works so well establishing this history between these two characters of Mr. Myers and Nathaniel and their kind of battle over the years, and I'm excited to see the culmination of these scenes when we get to them. There's a few supporting characters that we've also got coming along that still need to be filmed. Some of them you may think are very brief kind of like scenes, but then you may suddenly see them again later down the line.
It's been 5 years since the mysterious disappearances of the Myers family in the West Sussex area. What made this story so intriguing then, as it is today, is the fact that there was no trace whatsoever of any of the family members' fates. No leads have ever been found. Andrew Myers, the only family member still present in the area, son of Paul and Margaret Myers, and brother of Jonathan Myers, could not be reached at this time to comment.
One of the things that I really wanted to add with these new scenes was to put an emphasis on these small characters that we see. We have a character that's a news reporter, essentially, that kind of establishes the timeline of the film. And while we only see him briefly, he does pop up again later, not only in Detective Harper reports, but he may appear later down the line. And This character has, let's just say, an ulterior motive that we'll talk about when we get past that film. One of these is obviously a character named Naomi, and this character may connect to a character we've seen briefly in The Shape of Things to Come, played by Emmy-Lou. And I can't really say any more about these scenes, but let's just say that plot will go a lot further and may even connect to the Warriors storyline when we get there. Another scene that we're gonna add, as I touched upon when we're talking about this news reporter character, Luther Campbell, is he may have an ulterior motive. Now this may set up a storyline which is essentially one of the big three storylines of our next saga, Warrior Saga, which kind of splits into three trajectories. You have the main Warrior Saga going forward, then you have the Gathering Vigilantes to that side, and then you have essentially our superhero group cult that way. And what those scenes will do is establish that line that we haven't seen at all, so that'll be very interesting to kind of set up and see. Again, these are all scenes that are being moulded. You may see them, you may not. I hope you do, but time will tell. Another thing I wanted to add, where we've got obviously Final Report looming ahead after the Object Legacy, is almost a little tease towards this big action film that we've got coming along. And with that, there may be a scene where we meet one of these characters from Team Hotel in the Object Legacy. I don't know if it's going to get done, but I really want this kind of character to kind of cameo in, establish a few things, and it will be interesting to see how that goes.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
So where does that leave us now? Well, essentially we're at the point with Object Legacy that I could put a cut together and release it. I don't want to do that at the moment, but in my mind I want a cut-off point of essentially the end of this year. So what I plan to do over the next couple of months, because we are now just approaching October, is make a new cut, a 2025 work print cut of everything we've done so far, put it together, and then try and get as many people back together to film these new scenes that have been created to bolster out this world. Now, if they don't get filmed, it will suck, but I think the film will survive losing these scenes. But if we do get these scenes filmed, it will make this film feel a lot more lived in, and it will just make the film feel a lot more linear and thematic. So all I've got to say on this new featurette that we're making a year later after we started this reshoot project is thank you very much everyone for the support. Thank you very much for the cast and crew for being there for me, just coming in for free and helping this mad little dwarf help make this film. I couldn't have done it with any of you, and hopefully I can't do the rest of it without you, because you guys have really helped me make this world come alive. And to my audience, thank you so much for supporting us. Our audience has grown triple compared to what before we came back in 2023, so you have really given me the spunk, for lack of a better word, to kind of really push forward and make this film as epic as possible. And I can't wait to show you this film once it's complete, and then as we lead into the swan song story of Final Report. So thank you very much for listening to me rant. I hope to see you soon with updates, and just I hope you enjoy the journey of the Object Legacy, the culmination of the West Sussex incident. See you all soon, guys. Bye for now.